exciting to have their class. All right. So happy Frederick Douglass Day, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you all for joining us here today to celebrate Frederick Douglass. And although I will not be reading one of his many speeches, I will sample from some of them because his words, his wise words, are still very relevant today. We might know him as a famous orator, abolitionist, and confidant of President Lincoln. He was a true legendary, iconic figure, hailed on both sides of the Atlantic. But did you know about his humble beginnings? He was born in Maryland to a woman who was likely raped by her slave owner. He was born with the name Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey around 1818. They didn't keep records of slaves at the time. He was separated from his mother as an infant, a toddler. He lived with his grandmother until about age 6 when they sent him to work at another master's plantation. He finally escaped slavery, changed his name, became a famous abolitionist, orator, author, and confidant of President Abraham Lincoln. Just let that sink in for a moment. From chattel slave to counselor to United States president. Education was Frederick Douglass's pathway to freedom. He so desperately wanted to learn that he would trade his meager portions of food, biscuits and bread with white children so that he could learn from them what they were learning in school where he was not allowed to go. And so that begs the question, how much are you willing to give up so that you can learn? As you ponder that question, let me share a little poem. Wake up. Wouldn't it be nice to wake up to peace? Wouldn't it be nice to wake up to justice? Wouldn't it be nice to wake up to love? Wouldn't it be nice to wake up in the promised land of peace, overflowing with the milk of justice and the honey of love? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to wake up? Frederick Douglass famously said that without struggle, there is no progress. And I think that applies to just about everything. George Mumford, a talented mindfulness and performance expert, he actually coached Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and a lot of others. And his quote, similar to that, is, "No struggle, no swag." We just had the Super Bowl, and if you enjoy watching any type of professional sports, you can imagine the blood, sweat, and tears that those competitors, those players experienced, all the years of struggle, all the effort that they put in that others would not, so that they could become the best at their sport. If you like music, you can't be a music superstar if you're just playing every once in a while on the guitar. Music rock stars played until their fingers bled. I struggled through physics. Maybe you're struggling with math or some other class. And you have to do that struggle before you start to learn and how to apply the principles of what the teacher is sharing. And that struggle takes practice and practice and practice. And I don't know about you, but I'm still struggling with giving up that strongly addictive and ubiquitous substance, sugar, right? But I've made progress. I give up sugar every day. But my advice is don't drink sugar, y'all. Frederick Douglass says to become great, you have to commit to wise and vigorous cultivation of your faculties, all those things that make you you. To elaborate on Frederick Douglass's quote about struggle, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the roar of its mighty waters. Progress will not be easy. Achieving and progressing towards your goal will bring many challenges. We are never exonerated from challenging experiences. And today, we face many challenges, from the simple challenge of not being distracted all the time by incessant social media notifications, to the not so small challenges of the sad diet, that is the standard American diet. We've got global warming, war, social equality, women's rights, prison incarceration rates, culture wars, and the list goes on and on. And so, what progress would you like to see in the world? What struggle will you commit to? God gave you a dream. What is it? What would you love to see happen in this land of the free, from sea to shining sea? And there are different gifts and talents. Each of you has been given a gift of learning, healing, teaching, speaking, music, etc. If it is a gift that lies dormant, you must struggle, you must toil to awaken it. If it is a gift that is hidden, you must struggle to uncover it. If it is a gift, then you must discipline yourself to improving it and sharing it with the world for the good of all. And if you don't want to think of it as a gift, then think of it as your job, your J-O-B, capitalized. What is it on this planet that needs doing that you know something about that probably won't happen unless you take responsibility for it? Another way to think about that is, what do I care about so much that I would pay to do it? You can keep asking yourself this question daily. Embrace the discipline struggle requires, for it leads to freedom and bliss. Brother Michael Beckwith out in California has a church, and he calls discipline blisscipline. That's a combination of the word bliss, which means happiness, and discipline. Take a quick inventory of your life. Where are you most disciplined? Do you find you're thriving in that area? For example, if you're disciplined with your health, odds are you're healthy. If not, odds are you're not as healthy as you would like to be or could be. Embrace the struggle to be disciplined. It will lead to bliss and freedom. And like Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. So here's a funny word. Did you ever hear anyone say it's good to be a freak? Darren Hardy, the publisher of Success Magazine, says, don't be offended by being called a freak. It's a compliment. Every single person you have seen on the cover of Success Magazine is also a freak. In fact, they are super freaky. And that's probably how they got on the cover. So let's define freak. Freak is a noun. It's a person who is obsessed with or unusually enthusiastic about a specific interest. What gift do you have that you can get freaky about? What are you enthusiastic about or obsessed with? When you decide to focus on developing and sharing your gifts, others might think you're a freak, but be a freak for good. Share your gift to improve our world. Let's think about Frederick Douglass. There were a lot of enslaved people in his time, approximately 4 million other enslaved Africans. Yet, he was one out of 4 million, so freakishly consumed with the idea of freedom that he became the leading abolitionist. And that was not without challenges, of course. In order to break his desire to be free, he was put with what they called a slave breaker. He risked his life to fight with that slave breaker who had beat him mercilessly for years. Finally, one day, he decided he would fight back. That moment was the turning point. He had rekindled his desire to be free. And then, thank God, he met Anna Murray. This woman was instrumental in helping him escape. After escaping, Anna Murray and Frederick Douglass got married in 1838. Frederick Douglass would not be who we know him as today without his wife, Anna Murray. Frederick Douglass succeeded in liberating not only himself, but the rest of the enslaved Americans. He refused to accept his outward condition of slave. He committed and worked tirelessly to change his condition, first for himself and then others. And of course, he did not do his work alone. Like Martin Luther King and Gandhi, when Frederick Douglass got fired up about working on behalf of others, he moved mountains. Toni Morrison says that the purpose of freedom is to free someone else. And Frederick Douglass exemplified those words. Imagine, he was so freakishly consumed and focused on emancipation that someone who was once a slave became a confidant and advisor of the President of the United States. At one time, President Lincoln thought all people that were Africans and enslaved here should be shipped back to Africa, to a colony there, like Liberia. Frederick Douglass convinced President Lincoln that that wasn't the best way to deal with all the enslaved Africans here. He wanted them all to be free. When the Civil War erupted in 1861, leading abolitionist Frederick Douglass began placing a steady stream of pressure on the Lincoln administration. He wrote in his paper daily, he wrote letters to them, and he spoke on his circuit over and over again to ask the administration to include African Americans in the Union Army. He was freakishly relentless. Tireless efforts for years. And Douglass famously wrote, once let the black man get upon his person the brass letters U.S., Let him get an eagle on his button and a musket on his shoulder and bullets in his pocket. There is no power on earth that can deny he has earned the right to citizenship. And it took many attempts at persuading the president, but Frederick Douglass was committed to the struggle, and eventually Lincoln finally allowed Blacks to fight in the army. Ultimately, Black soldiers contributed greatly to restoring the Union. Now, Frederick Douglass faced some failures too. He failed to escape from freedom on his first attempt, but he kept trying and with help eventually succeeded. He was astute enough to realize the benefits of coalitions for changing things. He fought for women's right to vote, but that also failed during his time. Yet, he continued to fight for women's suffrage, that ability to vote, up until his dying day. That was his final public appearance. For today, let's think of a different way to look at what some might call failures. Nelson Mandela said that he either failed or he learned. What if we consider FAIL, F-A-I-L, as an acronym? FAIL, F-A-I-L, can represent first attempt in learning. Frederick Douglass started his abolitionist journey with William Lloyd Garrison. He learned and eventually realized he had differences of opinion and went his own way from William Lloyd Garrison. He started and ran several newspapers, the North Star, the New National Era, the Frederick Douglass paper. He published 3 autobiographies. Each one was an improvement and based on a deeper understanding of what he had done previously. He obviously developed his gift of writing and honed it like no other. My man Frederick Douglass stayed busy. We've got plenty of books to testify to that. David Mamet, an esteemed movie director, says you have to stand being good you got to stand being bad if you want to be good. You're 5th grader, so I was going to talk about remembering the first time you drove, but maybe we can start with the first time you learned to type or something else that you've started to learn. You probably were not very good at it right at the beginning, right? It takes practice and failing to get good. What are you willing to fail at? What will you work hard to get good at? What will your life mean? If you do something and fail, if the universe gives you no as an answer, remember that those letters N-O represent next opportunity. Stay positive, move and flow with the river of life, because if you want something you've never had, you have to do something that you've never done. Frederick Douglass went from being a slave in Maryland to carrying the fight for freedom abroad, to traveling Europe, Egypt, Haiti, and more. He saw the world and he worked as an ambassador for us. He said, opportunity is important, but exertion is indispensable. In his speech, Self-Made Men, he said that we may explain success mainly by one word, and that word is work. And he emphasized it. He said, work, work, work. He added exclamation points with every word he wrote in that speech. And he says, not transient and fitful effort, but patient, enduring, honest, unremitting, indefatigable work into which the whole heart is put, and which in both temporal and spiritual pairs is the true miracle worker. Frederick Douglass had to remind us in his day that the 4th of July for the longest time did not mean freedom for everyone in these United States. Recently, Nicholas Kristof, writing an editorial for the New York Times, says that democracy in America is ever evolving into a more perfect union, and that our history matters in this evolution. Our nation's past impacts who we are today and tomorrow. And to summarize some of his words, today we are seeing a rise in radicalized conservative forces endeavoring to erase the America's original sin of racism, chattel slavery, lynching, and Jim Crow laws, similar to when Frederick Douglass in Lessons of the Hour described the Southern white men's take on lynching that was presented with what he said, I quote, abundant repetition and startling emphasis. Sounds like today's media to me. Kristof continues, the emergence of anti-woke, anti-intellectual, illiberal, autocratic, authoritarian, and anti-democratic movements and trends within American society poses significant threats to the nation's progress and our national security. Now, Frederick Douglass was an activist, and at the core of his activism is the belief that power concedes nothing without a demand. Anand Giridharadas says that the burden of citizenship is accepting that what is not your fault may be your problem. Therefore, the question is, how do we change this question? how do we change this country? And the real question may be, how do we change ourselves? And we can perhaps start with changing ourselves and then persist in taking actions until we see the changes that continually move America into a more perfect union. Obama said that real change requires protest to highlight our problems and politics to implement practical solutions and laws. And we need to accept all of the past and acknowledge the immense strides made since Frederick Douglass's time. And we must continue to make strides towards a more just, more loving, more happy, and more perfect union. We have to fight for the principles of liberty, equality, and the pursuit of happiness for all of us. We ourselves have to independently together become beacons of light and hope so that our nation can continue on that route of becoming the shining beacon on the hill that other nations aspire to emulate. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to wake up? To wake up, we must be aware of the daily grind. To wake up, we must see the struggle that our brothers and sisters as our struggle. To wake up, we must be dissatisfied and see to it that poverty and despair shall be crushed by the battering rams of the forces of justice. To wake up, we must be dissatisfied and see to it that diversity, equity, and inclusion are not seen as a problem, but as an opportunity. To wake up, we must be dissatisfied and elect officials who will do justly, who will love mercy, and who will walk humbly with God. Frederick Douglass, in an extraordinary display of forgiveness, writes to Hugh Auld, his former master, "I love you, but I hate slavery." And there's someone, and not someone who's taken that biblical injunction from Matthew, but I say unto you, love your enemies, right? He is taking that seriously. And one way that we can put that into practice, we can take from Og Mandino. In his book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, he says, every day we must begin with this thought: I will greet this day with love in my heart. What does that mantra mean, you ask? Mandino responds, and how will I do this? Henceforth, I will look on all things with love, and I will be born again. I will love the sun, for it warms my bones, yet I will love the rain, for it cleanses my spirit. I will love the light, for it shows me the way, yet I will love the darkness, for it shows me the stars. I will welcome happiness, for it enlarges my heart, yet I will endure sadness, for it opens my soul. I will acknowledge rewards, for they are my due, yet I will welcome obstacles, for they are my challenge. I will greet this day with love in my heart. So I want to encourage all of us to consciously choose love today in everything you do. You can say to yourself, I will greet this day, this moment, with love in my heart. I am love, I am loved, and I am the heart of love. In each moment, we can take a deep breath and ask, what is a love-filled response to this moment? And I'll invite you into a practical practice of this. Look at your neighbor in the classroom there, or look at your neighbor in the office space with you, or bring to mind someone and repeat silently these phrases that I will say. May this person, may this one feel safe. May this one feel happy. May this one feel healthy. May this one live with ease. May this one know peace. May this one know love. So, happy Valentine's, everyone. Go out and be love. Thank you. And now I'd love to take some questions. And if you want to stay on a little bit further, I also have a video that I can share that talks about why selfies matter. And it's an interesting free think video about Frederick Douglass, who happened to be the most photographed person in his time. So any wisdom from your class, Ms. Glessner?
I don't think we allowed them to.
I didn't, did I? How can I do that?
There you go.
Hi.
Hello. Nice to see you all. Happy Valentine's.